So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of Money Talk Tuesdays, the Office of Economic Empowerment's free weekly virtual workshop. And today we'll be focusing on small businesses and how we can provide tips and resources through the COVID-19 pandemic and market volatility. Today's conversation will be presented by Harbor One Bank, as well as the SBA in Massachusetts. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining me today. My name is Keenan Grooms. I'm the Assistant Director for the Office of Economic Empowerment. And I really want to thank everyone for joining us because we know during COVID-19 and working from home, many of us are taking on new roles and new responsibilities, whether it be childcare, providing childcare, handling haircuts at home, or even homeschooling. We really want to be your resource today to help you and your small business thrive and succeed during these times. So we just want to go over a few housekeeping items and disclosures beforehand, and we'll get right into the presentation from Oresti Valera, as well as Kevin Brower at Harbor One Bank. Quick information on the Office of Economic Empowerment. We're the first of its kind in the country, created by Treasurer Goldberg, with the primary focus on supporting, advocating, and facilitating empowerment activities for all Massachusetts residents. Some of these priorities include closing the wage gap, increasing access to financial education, improving college affordability, and investing in STEM careers and education. And so as I mentioned, we're going through a few disclosure items. So as a state agency, we want to let you know that this is a Zoom webinar and it will be recorded. And any information shared through the question function will be anonymous today. But please note that we'll be sharing this live via Facebook. And since we were recording that for other individuals who are not be able to participate live, that the chat record is subject to public record law and such is not anonymous. So in terms of housekeeping items, this is a webinar and not a meeting. As such, you'll not be able to view the other participants, and we encourage you to use the raise your hand function to participate in discussions. You can also use the chat feature to communicate with the host and panelists. The Q&A function will not be available throughout the webinar, so we ask that you complete the post survey for us after the presentation to help us improve the Money Talk series in the months ahead. And at this point, I want to hand off the presentation to Oresti Varela. He's the Springfield branch manager for SBA and is going to focus on some of the updates happening from the economic recovery as it relates to small businesses.
All right, well, good morning, afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Oresti Varela. I'm with the Small Business Administration here in Massachusetts. We also have on the line Lisa Gonzalez-Welch, who is out of our office, our Boston office. I'm in the Springfield office, she's in the Boston office. There's only 10 of us total, actually, that cover the whole state. But so you got 2 of us today. So SBA, just so you know, is a very small federal agency. There's only about 3,000 people in the agency total. And one of the things you might not be aware of, you know, in terms of this, the disaster, is that the disaster team for SBA is really small. Businesses need assistance. Those few hundred people can handle that kind of a load. So this is unprecedented in history, that there's a national crisis that affects not only everyone, but small businesses. What the SBA temporary employees to deal with this backload. It's kind of crazy. So they tripled the size of the agency to deal with the backlog. So anyway, next slide. So that is Jovita Carranza. She's the administrator of SBA. She reports directly to President Trump. You can see there on the right-hand side the different declarations, and then the president signed the CARES Act, and then CARES Act 3.5. I don't know why it's 3.5. What happened to 2 and 2.5 or whatever, but anyway. So next slide. So the SBA, there's 4 areas that generally SBA provides assistance on a daily training and education through our 4 resource partners. I talk a little more about them at the end. Capital, which is access to money, basically through different types of loan programs. Contracting, we assist businesses who are interested in getting involved in federal contracting opportunities. And then lastly, disaster assistance. And that's kind of what we're going to cover today. Next slide. And these are the areas I'll be discussing. I'll talk about the injury, economic injury, disaster loan, and grant, the small business debt relief, which also includes some changes to our standard or traditional 7A Express loan. And then lastly, the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. Next slide, please. The economic injury disaster loan, also known as EIDL, became available, I think, around mid-March. It's a loan that includes an advance of up to $10,000. There was a misconception early on that everyone was going to get $10,000 for free. That's not the case. Actually, the $10,000 is based on the number of employees. It's $1,000 per employee. Many, actually, our district director just emailed us this 3,900 of these loans have been approved just in the last week alone. I don't know what the total is for the state, but probably in the thousands, many thousands. So, but anyway, one of the things that's changed recently is the maximum amount of the loan. It was $2 million. It's been, now it has upper limit of $150,000. It is, like I said, that up to 10,000 is the grant portion. There is a follow-on offer for a loan. The loan is 3.75% interest rate, 2.75 for nonprofits, up to 30-year term. I haven't seen anybody with less than a 30-year term, at least I haven't been contacted about anybody. These are basically working capital loans to pay fixed debts, payroll, account, all kinds of things that are business related, not for lost sales or profit or for expansion. Anyone who has applied for one of these loans, it will be funded. The when is, I have no idea, but so, and what we're telling people, if they applied very, very early in March, and if their application number begins with a 2, they need to reapply. So next slide. Now, for those people I just mentioned that needed to reapply, the ones that have a application number that begins with a 2, if they go to sba.gov/disaster. Now, what they will see when they go there and they hit apply now, it'll say, unless you're an agricultural type of a business, you cannot apply. And that is true, except for the example of the reapplication. So right now, what happened was, in the beginning, for whatever reason that I have no clue, agricultural businesses, farms were excluded from this loan grant for some reason. So what they did is that they've opened it up exclusively for agriculture and slash farms. Whether it opens up again for the general public, as it were, I don't know. I don't have that information. If you have one of these loans, and if you want some information about your particular loan, you can attempt to call the number there or email disaster customer service. Lisa and I do not have access to the system. The disaster team is really an entity unto itself, and we do not have access. So Lisa and I get calls all day, every day, can you check the status? Can you check the status? And unfortunately, we cannot. But anyway, so that's a little bit about that EIDL loan. And the deadline to apply for this loan is the 16th of December later this year, or I guess unless the funds run out. But next slide. Next slide. Up there it is. Oh, one more. Okay, so debt relief. Basically, if a business already has an existing SBA loan, there's really good news. Borrowers are, you can see they're relieved of any obligation to pay principal, interest, or any fees for 6 months, beginning this past March 27th. So, and this is supposed to happen automatically on all of our different types of loans. You can see the 7A, 504 micro loans. So SBA is paying your loan.
And Aresti, I think you're having a little difficulty with your connection. We'll give him one more second. If not, Lisa, do you think you could jump in and continue on the slides? Hi, Lisa, are you still with us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're here.
Okay. All right. I think I was muted by accident.
Oh, no
So
problem.
what Aresti was sharing is that this debt relief program is great for those of you who may have an existing SBA loan, because what's happening is that SBA is going to be paying for 6 months your loan. And that's automatic. You can certainly check with your lender, but that should be happening automatically. We would be paying the principal, the interest, and any associated fees for 6 months, which gives you a little bit of breathing room. We're also, and that would be for all loans, for 7A, a 504 micro loan, again, for 6 months. In addition to that, SBA is going to also pay loans for any new borrowers starting prior to September 27, 2020. So again, we just wanted to make you aware of this. You can certainly, again, check with your lender, but this should be something that happens automatically. The next slide. Okay, so the 7A Express loan is temporarily increased from $350,000 to $1 million, which is great news, through December 31st, 2020. Additionally, the upfront guarantee fee for veterans is zero, reduced to zero, so that's being waived, and no loan fees for veteran-owned businesses. So again, if any of our veterans out there that are seeking financing, or if you know of someone, please share this information, because it's a great opportunity. Next slide. So now the PPP, and is Aresti back with us? I want to make sure. Oh, Aresti, you here?
Yes, I'm back. I have a love-hate relationship with Zoom. When it works, I love it. When it doesn't work, I hate it.
We're glad we had the backup of Lisa.
And it just boom, bounced me out. I know, that's why, you know, we like to have a contingency plan. So thanks, Lisa. So yeah, so in terms of the Paycheck Protection Program, which is all in the news, and everybody wants to know, there's lots of information that changes almost like on a daily basis. So, but anyway, so we're just going to cover the highlights here that most people know. But So it provides small businesses with funds to pay up to 8 weeks of payroll costs, including benefits. It can also be used to pay interest on business mortgages, rent, and utilities. It's the form of a loan. It's really that can be fully forgiven. And the basics of the forgiveness are that at least 75% of the amount has to be used for payroll. So that guarantees the business owner 100% forgiveness, which makes the money basically free. So you can see there, forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining salary levels. Forgiveness will be reduced if full-time headcount declines or if salaries and wages decrease. I put
And it looks like we lost Rusty again. So Lisa,
this is
he's back.
what was that?
Sorry, Rusty, we're having a little trouble with your connection again. And so Lisa, if you wouldn't mind pinch hitting again for Rusty on the PPP.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Go
Can
for
you
it,
hear me?
Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So as Oreste was stating, the PPP program is intended to pay for up to 8 weeks of payroll costs, including benefits for small businesses. Really, the forgiveness is based on how you use it. 75% has to at least be used for payroll, and you can use 25% towards rent, utilities, other things pertaining to your business. The forgiveness, again, it's going to decrease if you don't have the head count. And oftentimes, Oreste and I get many calls, you know what, I've tried to get my employees back. They really don't want to come back, or they are making more unemployment. They don't have to, and I know it sounds awful. It doesn't have to be the same people, but if you had 10 employees, you have to bring 10 employees back. So whether the original 10 employees come back or whether you hire 10 new ones, you need to have 10 folks on the payroll. So that's the way that the program is intended. And when they first rolled this out, I mean, we didn't know that we were going to be in this far into it already. But the intent was that once everything was okay, that you had your employees on the payroll, that you could just open up the doors and move forward as if nothing happened, as opposed to having to retrain new people. So that, again, it's important that 75% goes towards payroll. We can't stress that enough. We get a million questions every day on that. Small businesses with 500 or fewer employees, including nonprofit, veterans organizations, tribal concerns, and self-employed individuals, sole proprietorship, and independent contractors are all eligible as well. If you want to go to the next slide. The application period is a little bit shorter than the EIDL. This one ends on June 30th of 2020, or when the funds are exhausted. There are still funds there, so anyone who is still interested, please, make sure you reach out to an SBA participating lender, which is the way that it works. The EIDL, as you know, it's directly through the SBA. The PPP, the way that it works is you have to go through an SBA participating lender to apply. And if you need help finding one, you go on the website and there's a little search engine where you would put your zip code and they would identify lenders within your area that do offer the PPP. Oreste, are you back with us? I don't know if you can hear us or not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Do you want to take over? You want me to go?
It's just well, my connection is intermittent. I don't know how well you hear me.
We can hear you fine right now, but if you break up, I'll jump in. How's that?
Okay, so, right. So the thing is, I did put some information there about how to calculate the loan. There's so much information that is out there on how to do calculations. So it really doesn't make sense to really go over that right now. But anyway, the basics of, oops, what happened? Slides are moving around on us. If you go to the, so yeah, the thing is at the end of this particular slide, the 2-year term, basically whatever's not forgiven becomes a 2-year term loan at a 1% interest rate. It's deferred for 6 months, but the interest accrues. You can find out more information at sba.gov, paycheck protection. Next slide. And Lisa was talking about how to find the PPP lender. There are lenders out there who are still participating. A lot of them are maxed out and they're done. But first, we tell people check with your local lender, but you can use these other tools that we have here on this particular slide. There's also these fintech lenders, whatever that is, that can also get you into a PPP loan. So, but we definitely recommend the local lenders first. Next slide. Now, a lot of businesses need help analyzing their businesses, not only help with applying for these loans, but what are their businesses going to look like in the future? They may have to change their business model. I mean, you see these restaurants are moving towards almost exclusive, well, right now they're exclusively takeout. So that's a big change to the business. And we have 4 resource partners dedicated to help businesses through this and many other challenges. SCORE, the Small Business Development Centers, and the Veterans Business Outreach Center. So these are our SBA partners who receive funding from SBA to provide free one-on-one counseling. And you can see they're consulting now. There's Zoom, Skype, phone, email, all those different things. And you can, if you go to that website.
Oops. Do you want to jump in?
Yep, Lisa, if you can go ahead and finish the slide.
Great, sure. So one of the things that I think Oresti and I want to stress too, there's a lot of, fraud. Oh, there's a lot of fraud going on. Just know that all of these programs are free. There's no fee associated, and you're not alone. And we know that it's a scary time. So you actually can get together with SBA's resource partners, which are SCORE, the Small Business Development Center, the Center for Women and Enterprise, and the Veterans Business Outreach Center, where they can sit down with you and review your financials, help you filling out the application, update your business plan. And again, it's all free and confidential, and they can get with you, as Oresti stated, via Zoom, Skype, email. They put on webinars regularly that might be of help to you. Also, how to maybe pivot a little bit. Since this happened, maybe what you can do to get some business. Maybe it's not something that you were doing originally, but something that can help you during this time. So please be aware that you're not alone. You have 5 new friends, including us, the SBA, that can help you through the process.
And there's my contact information. I forgot to put Lisa on there. Sorry, Lisa.
That's okay.
but anyway, so that's our presentation. How did you want to, did you want to take questions now or at the end, or what did you want to do?
We could take questions now, so feel free to either send questions to the chat function or the Q&A. And we can give it a few seconds, and then we'll head it over to Kevin's presentation.
Q&A. Okay.
And so the first question we have is, what kind of business would benefit from an EIDL loan?
Well, that's an interesting way to phrase a question, in the sense that, any business can benefit. These loans are intended to help businesses that are impacted by COVID-19. So any business that has a negative impact and needs funding would benefit from, utilizing those loans.
And then one more question that we just received. Hi, I just applied and was rejected by EIDL.
Right. So, yeah.
I don't see where on my account the number 2. Based on your presentation, I'm going to reapply. Is there something I should click where it's still saying that this is for agriculture only?
So in this particular case, Christy, I guess it is, did you receive a declination letter, or how do you know you were rejected? If you received the letter, there's information on there on how to not reapply, but be reconsidered. If you go back in and reapply after you've been rejected, it'll probably reject automatically. Oh, I see. She said the email stating that it's for agriculture only. So, right. So if you applied right now, it's only for agriculture. So unless it's opened up again for the general public, then you can't apply right now. Someone's asking about social distancing requirements. We don't have any information to discuss on that. That's not what the SBA does. That's really the state. The governor's office is really handling that.
And again, we encourage people to keep sending the questions over. Aresti and Lisa will stay on the conversation to answer any more questions related to the SBA. But at this time, we want to move forward over to Kevin's presentation. And we have Kevin Brower here from Harbor One. Kevin's the Vice President of Small Business and team leader for the organization. And we joked on this before we got on the webinar. He's been dreaming PPP loans for the past few weeks. So he's the expert on that and can really answer questions from a lender perspective of how to navigate the loan process, some of the best practices, and areas that you want to avoid in terms of the application. So Kevin, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. So, so just a little background. I have been at Harbor One for 20 years. I had a small business from Massachusetts, and I know these are trying times, and people are nervous, and that's why it's good to have a lender partner, somebody that you can always talk to. Remember, that's one of your key partners, as well as your CPA, your accountant, and your attorney. We have, I think we're definitely over 1,000 PPPs. We've been doing them for it seems like a month now, but it's a scary time, but we're here to help, and they're very important. This is going to obviously carry you through until we can get back to somewhat of the new normal. When it comes, we have a PPP hotline that we're helping people with. We're transitioning to the forgiveness phase, which we're obviously going to be helping people through that. A little background, we're open for regular business. This is no different. We obviously handled the PPPs, and we're transitioning to the forgiveness, like I said, but we're open for new business. There's a lot of businesses thriving. We have a lot of trucking companies that are still going strong, and they're adding employees, adding vehicles. Landscapers are already up and running and going. I know that not everyone's open for business yet, but to prepare even for your application for a normal loan, some of the tips that you'd want is, I know that the taxes have been extended through July, but it's important to show your lender what you've been doing for 2019. To look at 2018's, I mean, we can and maybe get some management prepared, but it's very important if you want to apply and you want to see that picture. That's a better picture for the lender, because 2018 is really almost a year and a half ago. So, and we've had a lot of businesses that had great success in 19. So we'd rather, do that and show that if we can. The applicants are very proud of what they've done. But that's some of the tips. Make sure and work with your accountant. You you can certainly do them at any time. You don't have to wait until to the deadline. So that's an important tip. Good record keeping. You know, where I handle loans up to $1 million. We have an in-house limit up to 60 million when you go to commercial. But I've been dealing with small businesses for a long time now. It's really a fun and rewarding job, because you kind of get to grow alongside with them. You know, I've watched companies grow from $60,000 a year in sales to actually $25 million years in sales, and have done multiple businesses and vehicles and equipment for them. So that part's you know, really exciting to actually watch these businesses grow. And you know, mostly you know, they have my cell phone number. That's how we are at Harbor One. Most lenders are like that, but not all give you their cell phone number. But we're here. These are scary times, and we want to instill the confidence that that we are here for them, and we're going to help them through. And it's important for us to make sure they get through to the other side.
Thank you, Kevin. In terms of the process, what are some of the missteps that you've seen some of the small businesses who are applying for an SBA loan encountered?
A lot of the missteps, mostly initials. They're forgetting to initial questions on page 1, page 2. They forget. You need your W-2s, your W-3s. A lot of them have just been sending the applications. It has helped that we've had you know, our branch staff assisting us with the process, so we get right back to the customers. Now it's very easy because they're going very fast. We're getting the numbers usually same day.
And I know many people think that the Paycheck Protection Program is one of the only loans available for SBA, but do you think you could highlight a few of the other loan programs that either might be at Harbor One or that some small businesses can apply for during economic disaster?
So we have normal loans, term loans, lines of credit, which still do in commercial mortgages, but lines of credit are going to be important and key, because the access to capital going forward is going to be very important to your business to get you through these slow and transitional times. We do have loans as early as even a startup, and a lot of banks don't do startups. They're small, but we have a at our Harbor One U. If you go on harbor1.com and go to our Harbor One U section, on May 26th, we have an online Success for Small Business class where you're going to attend them for 3 nights online, and you qualify for a $5,000 line of credit. And if you handle it properly, you actually the following year go up to $10,000. We also have Harbor One credit cards that you can apply for right up to $25,000 as a startup. So a lot of businesses, startup businesses don't have access to a lot of capital. A lot of banks don't touch them. We do a little in it, and we're here to assist that way as well.
That's great. And it's important you mentioned some of the technical assistance that can be provided with the loans. So I guess I want to take that question to the entire group, and Aresti and Lisa, feel free to speak to this as well. So after organizations and small businesses receive the money, what can they do, whether it be SCORE or some other associations, to help their technical assistance and make sure that they can implement the process and that they're on pace to get that loan forgiven?
Well, in terms of forgiveness, the guidance hasn't dropped yet. So it's literally probably within the next 48 hours, we will receive the guidance, and then myself, Lisa, everyone else at SBA, all the resource partners, we're all going to get it at the same time as you'll get it. Everyone in the public will get it. So we won't have any greater expertise than anybody else. But what our plan is to analyze it. Our agency is actually going to create some PowerPoints for us to then not disseminate, but actually do presentations, here throughout the Commonwealth. So that, in terms of forgiveness, that's coming. We know what the basics of forgiveness, and we kind of talked about that during the presentation today. but there's so many scenarios and details um, and I'm sure most of those things will be covered when the guidance drops down, but I'm sure there still will be other scenarios that are popped up. I mean, because there's millions and millions of businesses and there's all kinds of different types of scenarios. So, but again, the spirit of the program is to help businesses and not to say, gotcha, you're not going to get forgiven. That's not what the goal of the program is. So we just have to, and I know some businesses who received their PPP like 4 weeks ago are getting anxious. They're like, hey, we're coming up on our 8 weeks and we want to know what we have to do to be forgiven. And we want to be able to tell you, but we just can't tell you in any great detail just yet. The actual application for forgiveness just was published this past Monday. Oh, I guess that's yesterday. Today feels like Thursday. But yeah, so that just came down and, we're kind of reviewing that. And then again, guidance will be forthcoming. So we just got to hang on, more to follow. But once we get it, then yes, businesses can utilize our resource partners and folks like Lisa and I, the rest of the SBA team. We're all going to be read up on that and have, I wouldn't say we'll be experts, but we'll be darn close.
And we also have another participant question. And that question is, can someone who owns a business and is collecting unemployment compensation apply to the PPP or EIDL?
So yeah, I get that question kind of every day. And here's what's the challenge is that the only guidance, so there's nothing on the EIDL that says you can't collect the unemployment. In the PPP guidance, all that it says is that unemployment insurance could be, what's the right word, not affected, eligibility can be affected. So actually, my wife owns a nail salon and she's been collecting unemployment because she's closed down. And I asked her, I said, show me the panels. Let's go through. And it clearly states, like the second question, when you're verifying, it asks about income. Are you receiving income from any other sources? So if someone has applied, if a business has applied and is receiving PPP, and the business, let's say the business owner themselves is using that money as a salary, then to me, again, I'm not an unemployment specialist, that's a violation, right? Because you are getting income from another source. That EIDL loan generally is not used for payroll, although it could be. So these are questions that it's a little difficult for us in SBA to answer because we're not unemployment specialists. But just looking at it again logically, and when you're validating your request or continuation of unemployment, and it clearly states, like when my wife was going through it, it stated, are you receiving income from other sources? And if you can't say no to that, then you have a problem. And nobody wants to get into unemployment fraud and those kind of things. So people have to tread lightly. But again, if you just think about it, all right, I'm getting PPP and I'm paying myself, and I'm collecting unemployment. It just doesn't sound right when I say it, and it shouldn't sound right to anybody else out there.
Great. And then we received one more question as well. What loans are available for sole proprietors that have no employees?
Both those loans are available, or sole proprietors and self-employed can apply for any of the loans, whether it's PPP or the economic injury loan. Again, the problem with the EIDL loan right now is that it's only open to agricultural businesses. So to answer the question accurately, at the particular moment, PPP is the only game in town for someone who's self-employed. And then there's a process, basically, they would take the Schedule C, line 31, divide by 12, times it by 2.5, and that's how much of a loan they would get. That's the short story.
I did want to jump in. That is a big misstep for some of the self-employed. They're thinking because they don't receive a W-2 that they're not eligible for it. So just like what was said, make sure and have your Schedule C, available to you, because you do qualify as a sole proprietor.
And it doesn't have to be, you do not have to file taxes for 2019. You just need to pull down that Schedule C and fill it out as best as you can for 2019 with 2019 data. You do not have to have filed. So.
And do you think someone from the group could speak to record keeping for a small business after they've received one of the loans?
So on the economic injury disaster loan, it's not clear, and I've not seen any guidance. I don't know if Lisa, if you've seen anything on record keeping for the economic injury disaster loan. There's really, Lisa, are you aware of anything on the EIDL?
Not as of yet, no.
Right, yeah. And so, but in terms of the PPP, there's a lot of information on record keeping, and I don't think any of it's really from the SBA. What you want to be able to prove to the bank, and maybe Kevin will jump in here, and again, we're still
So I think we lost them.
Yep, Arresty, I think we're having some connection issues again. So Lisa, if you want to jump in, that'd be.
has no employees.
Oh,
What I've been telling sole proprietors is that, especially if they have a business account, you put that money into your business account, and then basically you do a bank transfer, or you cut a check to yourself and you mark on it salary, so that the bank will then know, okay, this was utilized for salary purposes, and or let's say you're going to pay the rent on your lease of your business, or you're going to pay some utilities. You just want to clearly document it. See, a lot of big businesses, they have accountants on staff, and all these things are cataloged and this, but again, the sole proprietor, self-employed, they don't have any of that. And so just clear, concise documentation, I think is like the less complicated, the better. And then Kevin, did you want to weigh in on that?
No, that's exactly what we've been telling people to do. So, a Schedule C employee normally only takes their draw, maybe monthly, maybe, every 6 months, maybe towards the end of the year. But you want to take it right away. You want to write yourself that check. You want to memo it or do the transfer. Unfortunately, we have the customer that has the accounts here. We can see that it was transferred in and with a memo line of payroll. But right, as best record keeping as you can do, because the sole proprietor does not have access to their, a whole accounting staff down the hall. They're everyone. They run the business. They're the accountant. They do everything. So just the best record keeping you can do on everything that you pay out, and then we'll collect it all and we'll help you through it.
that's great advice. And again, I just want to encourage anyone to have questions from the audience. Feel free to either type it right into the chat or answer into the Q&A section. And this is another question for you, Kevin. In terms of the application process, have you seen any tips or suggestions from small businesses that help them expedite the application process?
The ones that were very clear and cut with, the 12 months of salary, divide, the income, the payroll divided by 12 times it by 2.5. It was a very simplified process, and we actually got originally, obviously, it was taking a little time, but today we can get a number in probably less than 10 minutes. And so the easier you are, just anything that you're applying for, you just have to have the documentation to support it. So whatever your supporting documents are, if you're trying to include the lease, you have to have those supporting documents with it. Otherwise, it does slow down the application process.
Great. And Rusty, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think Kevin covered it. It's supposed to be a simple process. Actually, application is kind of simple. It's just this forgiveness on the other end is going to be a little more complicated, I think, than we would like it to be. But
Great. So at that time, I don't think we have any more questions from the audience. So I am going to share my screen again now, bring it back to the presentation and speak a little bit about what the Office of Economic Empowerment is doing to empower small businesses. So as some of you may know, the Office of Economic Empowerment had launched the Empowerment Grant for Small Businesses. And this is a grant program that is open to small businesses within gateway cities across Massachusetts. And the application process is still open. So that is open until May 29th, 2020. And businesses can receive up to $2,500 in grant money. Again, this isn't a loan, this is grant funding for these businesses. So if you have any specific questions, we ask that you reach out to the empowerment@trade.state.ma.us. If you would like to learn more about it, you can go to the Treasury website. And at this time, I think since we don't have any more questions, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Specifically, I want to thank Kevin and Oresti for answering a lot of questions and giving us some detailed background on what small businesses can do to really recover from this economic disaster. I also want to thank Lisa for jumping in so many times for us.
You're welcome.
So I hope everyone has a great day and join us next Tuesday for our Money Talk session, which will be on teaching your kids about money.
thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Thank
Dean.
you.
All right. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.